Hi, my name's Sam Collinson. I'm 22 years old, originally from Staffordshire. I currently living in Malvern where it's raining a lot, as you can see. And this morning I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and how I became to be who I am today. So I grew up in a household that weren't Christians. Me, my mum and my brother did go to church occasionally, but weren't strong believers. And when I was a young lad, in a car, I felt that God said to me, "Sam, you're my son and I love you." And this voice was non-audible, but I knew it was from God. And this wasn't enough to make me a Christian. This wasn't enough to change me, because as I got into my teens, I became more and more troubled. But there was a time when God spoke to me again, started to speak to me again, and that was at the time I was reading Mark's Gospel. So in this time when I was reading Mark's Gospel towards the end of high school, I made a good friend called Dave. And Dave was a guy that I usually got into trouble with. I used to get into trouble with him quite often. We drink a lot and things like that. And but one of the things I didn't know about Dave was that deep down he was a Christian, and he introduced me to some other Christians. On a Thursday night we'd meet up and just eat food. And through this friendship that I was forming with them, they became my new best friends, as it were. I ended up going to an event in the summer called Soul Survivor, and it was a week that changed me forever, because seeing 5,000, 6,000 people come to worship God, to hear the Bible preached and to be prayed for was something I'd never experienced. And I saw things that week that were totally miraculous, that were totally unexplainable, but stuck with me forever. And in this time, God started to speak to me again. He started to speak to me about His love. And I decided to follow Jesus. I started to realise through what I've been reading and what I was hearing this week that Jesus was worth living for. And He thought I was worth dying for. So, after having this incredible experience in this summer of 2007, I decided that I was going to do something with this. And in this time I realised I had a very strong calling on my life, which was to share Jesus with the world, and to share the difference you can make with the world through my own actions and through my own preaching and through my own music, which I used. And in this time of going through sixth form, I had a lot of discussion about God with people, and so many questions came up and so many things came up that I hadn't even considered. But I was getting more confident in my faith nonetheless. And in this time I saw my mum become a Christian, who I later baptised along with my dad. And at the end of sixth form, I ended up travelling around Europe with a missionary organisation called YWAM, because I just wanted to see what God was doing. I just wanted to see what would happen if you gave God space, if you stepped out of work, if you stepped out of education and just went for it and lived like the people around Jesus lived, praying for people, preaching. What would happen? And I saw incredible things happen when I was around Europe and around the UK. And I showed that Jesus, who's the hero of my life, the hero of my story, could be their saviour too. And I saw the most amazing things. But I realised I needed more training. I needed to know more. I needed to go deeper if I was going to pursue this calling. So that's why I went to theological college here in Malvern, where C.S. Lewis grew up. I met Hannah here, who's my fiancée. So like I said, Jesus is the hero of this story. He is the one who came into history as a perfect man, and He laid down His own life so that I might have life. He died for my own forgiveness, to take away my shame, because He was who He was, and He did what He did. He took away my shame and my sin. And He didn't stay dead, because 3 days later He rose from death, giving us a hope that will never go, that will never leave us. And He's promised that He'd always be with us and He would never forsake us. And I just want to tell you, if you don't know who Jesus is, and if you don't know this forgiveness that I'm talking about and this peace of hope that I'm talking about, then ask Jesus into your life. Ask Him to show you who He is. And I promise you'll never be the same.